All right, let's get into it. Well, it's still the same Friday.
It is. But we're on round two.
Round two. Yeah.
Round two with Gary Brugman.
So at the intro of the last episode, I started this off with, hey, do you like cigars? We got a long story to tell. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't wrong.
You weren't.
This is part two.
Yeah. So we left off with Gary's just getting out of prison.
Got out of the halfway house.
Yep.
Now he's a free man.
And off probation. So now we're circa 2009, right? 2008. Okay. So after you got out, after you got done with probation, everything's already done. You are a quote unquote free man, except the felony, the felon flag hanging off your back. So what did life look like then?
So I technically got out of the prison in 2006, out of prison, but I was at the halfway house for 10 weeks, but it was still like April of 2006.
Okay.
So I worked for Joey. Then I ended up going to work at Harley Davidson for about a year and a half at Alamo City because I knew the owner. And I worked the parts department over there. And I worked there for about a year and a half. And then after that, I actually ended up driving trucks in the oil field.
Okay.
So I started driving oil tankers. I've always driven a truck. It's one of the things I always fall back on. Wreckers, big rigs. If it's got wheels, I can drive it. But I did that for a while. And you know what? I'm gonna go back because I didn't do that. From Harley Davidson, my phone rang one day, and it was this guy on the other end of the phone named Ed Hendy, who owns a Taste of Texas restaurant in Houston. Yeah. And my phone rings. I'm like, I don't know anybody in Houston. And somebody had told him my story. And he had got my number. And he says, is this Gary Brugman? I said, yeah. And he says, my name's Ed Hendy. I'm a restaurateur. I'm an aide to Congress here. And I'm also a talk show radio host in Houston. And somebody told me a story. I want to hear it from you. So I told him the story, condensed version of what I just said. And he says, well, on behalf of America, I want to apologize that this happened to you. And I am in a unique position to help you change your life if you let me. And I was like, yeah, sure.
Right.
You know,
like you can't say no to that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, sure. That's fine. To this day, that dude's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Whenever I go work in Houston, I stay at his house.
But you sent Dave there for dinner one night.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't even let Dave pay.
Yeah.
He's never met Dave before in his life.
Nope. and that's the way it is. Then this guy changes people's lives, and he's an amazing person. But that's a whole other story. We won't get into him. But he asked me what I wanted to do in my life, and you know, over the years, you know, being in prison, I wanted to be Jesse James. You know, because I can work on old cars and stuff. I mean, if it's an old Malibu or old Mustang, whatever, I can take the whole thing apart and lay it out in your drive in your front parking area here and put it back together. You know. Not so much these new cars, but old stuff I can do that. And but I knew that wasn't going to work because I just don't have that patience. So I was like, you know what? I'd like to have a tool truck.
Yeah.
You know. So Glenn Beck, Roger Hedgecock, which is a talk show host out of Houston, all got together. And they raised about $80,000 for me to start a tool truck.
Oh, wow.
I had a Mako tool truck.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And I did great for about 2.5 years until Obama came into office and did that cash for clunkers.
Yeah.
And I went out of business in 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So then after that, I started driving some buses, and then I ended up, you know, the oil field hit in like 2011.
Yeah.
And I started driving tankers, and I did that for a long, long time. I worked for Chesapeake Energy. I worked for NGL. I worked for Devon, and it was good. And all this whole time, I kept doing events and doing speaking events because I wanted to get my story out there. I was always on the news. This U.S. attorney that prosecuted me, when I first got out of prison, I was working at the Harley shop. There were 2 agents in Del Rio, in El Paso, that shot a dope smuggler in the ass after a fight.
Yeah.
So they jumped a load of dope. He ran. One agent jumped him. He threw the agent down in a ditch. His partner came up running. He was going across the river. He turned around and pointed a gun at him.
Yeah.
The agent opened fire and didn't think he hit him because the guy kept running to Mexico. So, unwritten rule in the Border Patrol. I may catch some shit for saying this, but
I think it's in the line of duty ever.
Right. If you don't hit them, pick up your brass and run.
I was gonna say then everybody opens up. Like once a round is fired.
Yeah, it's game on.
Yeah, like once the army starts shooting, everybody starts shooting. You know, but they picked up their brass and there were supervisors there, but they didn't report it.
Yeah,
unfortunately, they did hit him in the ass.
Yeah,
and they put a bullet through his buttocks, and he went and told somebody who knew an agent in Sierra Blanca, and he looked up what dope had been caught, and they nailed these two agents.
Wow.
He prosecuted them, and they got 11 and 12 years.
The same U.S. attorney?
The same U.S. attorney.
So you just had a hard-on for Border Patrol.
There was a sheriff's deputy in Rock Springs who was working midnight shift. A vehicle ran a red light. The only red light in freaking Rock Springs, flashing red light, ran it. He pulled it over. When he walked up, the guy cut the wheel, took off, tried to run him over. He shot into the tires. A round ricocheted, went through the cab and clipped the illegal alien's lip, a female. He was cleared of that shooting by his sheriff's department, the Texas Rangers, the ATF, and was back on duty. 10 months later, same U.S. attorney decided he was going to prosecute on a civil rights violation.
Wow.
So, and then just recently, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I want to get to this point. Just recently, I think I told you I was on Stinchfield and Michael Berry in Houston because you know what happened with Attorney General Ken Paxton here in Texas, right?
Yeah.
So he had some whistleblowers on him that was saying all this stuff and, you know, making up all these things on him, and they impeached him, and he actually lost his job for a minute. Then he went to the trial. He went to the Senate trial. And during the trial, it came up, and he asked one of his attorneys asked one of his whistleblowers, says, "Who's Johnny Sutton?" So for 3 years, these whistleblowers have had the most prominent, most expensive attorney in Texas representing them. They haven't paid him a dime.
Yeah.
No retainer, no nothing. They didn't even know how they were going to pay him or how much they were paying him.
Yeah.
And it was the same U.S. attorney that prosecuted me, except now he's doing private practice. He's got a private practice in Austin with John Ashcroft, who was the attorney general that lost the election to a dead guy.
Right.
But so what Johnny Sutton does, he just lies and manipulates the truth and the law in order to get the outcome that he wants. Right. And he was just trying to ruin another career in Ken Paxton.
Yeah.
So once they said his name, and apparently, I never seen it, but apparently my name came up during the Paxton trial. Did you know he prosecuted Border Patrol agent Gary Brugman or something to that effect? My phone started ringing off the hook. You know, so I ended up being on the Michael Berry show. I was on Stinchfield, and Sarah Gonzalez had called for me to be on her show. And I just told the truth. I said that straight up. He's a liar. He's a manipulator. And, you know, so what happened was Ken Paxton ran against George P. Bush and annihilated him in the election.
Yeah.
So how else can they get him out? Well, let's get him impeached. Let's get him done, you know. It's what Johnny Sutton does.
Yeah.
You know, he's a liar and a manipulator. But I ended up driving oil tankers for a long time, and then I had a big motorcycle wreck in 2016. Got hit on access road of I-10. Lady literally ran me over. I broke 2 bones in my right foot, fractured and sprained both my ankles, broke my leg, collarbone, tore my rotator cuff. I was doing about 50 when she hit me. Yeah. And I ended up in the middle of the parking lot. However, I was all banged up, road rash everywhere. Didn't mess up my hair. Dude.
Well, to be fair, you have a lot of stuff in your hair.
So that kind of
Gary doesn't even need to wear a helmet. He just uses his hair gel.
It's like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. It's like, I spent 2 hours on the hair and you hit me in the hair. But that made me take a turn for things because, you know, at that point in my life, I couldn't push down on clutch because of my legs and couldn't drive a truck. So got my real estate license and I started doing that and still doing news and, you know, getting out there, getting my story out there as much as I can. And, you know, eventually I ended up meeting you guys a few years ago. And I started doing real estate.
Yeah.
You know, I started doing real estate. And so before you guys were here, before Black Rifle was here, before Grunt Style was here, one of the things that I did was I volunteered with Soldiers Angels.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that used to take all these vets coming back because the war was still going on back then. I'd take them to Houston for UFC fights. I'd drive them everywhere.
Right.
You know, and the veteran market back then just, you know, it was just whoever wanted to volunteer because there really wasn't a lot of people before you guys got here.
Yeah.
Right.
you know? And eventually I just kept on doing my things. And through Ed Hendy, I ended up meeting somebody who was a cabinet member in Trump's administration. And he went, when my pardon was brought to him, he's like, why does this guy's name keep coming across my desk?
Let's back up from that for a minute and let's fill in a little bit of the details. So you brought up when you met us at first, right? So Scott and I met Gary at the same time.
Yep.
We were the boys over at Black Rifle put out that they needed extras, local guys to come hang out. And they were doing I think it was Soft versus Zombies video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Special Operations Forces versus Zombies. And so we went out to the Black Rifle Ranch in San Antonio. And we spent a full day out there freezing our ass off because it was kind of chilly. We're all dressed up. We got, clothes and makeup and everything, zombie stuff. And we're all the zombies in this movie. And it's not Scott's first time being a zombie.
No, that was my second time.
And we all died. We all got killed a couple times, I think. But it was really cool. It's really cool to see the behind the scenes, the production quality, what they put into some of the videos that they do, and just to hang out with all the guys and stuff like that. Well, that's where we met Gary. Mm-hmm. And we met Gary, I remember specifically, we were getting ready to go film. We just got done doing makeup. And Scott, you and I went outside of the house to have a cigar. And Gary just walks up out of nowhere, and he's all dressed up like a zombie too. And he's like, you got another one of those? And we're like, yeah,
of course.
And so we handed it to him, explained who we were and what we did and everything like that. And he's like, yeah, I'm Gary Brugman. At the time, Scott and I were just like, oh, whatever, another zombie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we didn't know anything. And so we hung out all day long, smoking cigars and filming and being idiots and stuff like that. And then we kind of found out that we ran similar circles. We just didn't know,
right?
At the time, and this was early when we got to San Antonio. This is 4 years ago.
Yeah.
At this point, and so then we kept running into him at different events and things like that, and developed a friendship over the years and hanging out, drinking, and now
anybody who's listened to our other podcast.
Oh yeah, we talk shit about Gary every single episode.
Gary's been a part of that podcast for a long time.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And it's funny how you meet people and how relationships develop, and you have no idea.
Well, and I think it goes to show too, like if you meet somebody, like I don't become friends with somebody the second time I meet them.
Yeah.
Right. It takes you being in the same circles.
Right.
Running in, like you came into the shop a couple times.
Yeah.
We went out to drink a couple times.
Yeah.
We became really good friends.
Yeah.
So,
And I tell you, since you guys actually came into my life, it's been a big blessing because you're my circle. You guys are like family to me now,
right.
Hence, when I had COVID, you had your freaking fan base saying, "Hey, what do you mean you don't know where he is?"
It was so hard. Yeah. So let's get into that. We almost skipped that.
Well, no, we just haven't got there yet.
We haven't got there.
No, because it was before.
It was after the.
Oh, it was after. Okay. Fuck. See, I don't even know anymore. Okay. So let's get into that part of it.
So before that, so I was working doing real estate, and I was doing whatever I need to do to make some money, and my mom got sick.
Yeah.
So I ended up bringing my mom over to live with me, and for 2.5 years, I took care of my mom. I brought her by the shop a couple of times.
Yeah, I remember.
She's like, "It smells like smoke."
But it's good smelling smoke.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So I was with her, and on December 23rd, coming up here, it's going to be 3 years. Yeah. I got presidential pardon from Donald J. Trump.
You did.
I got a presidential pardon from Donald J. Trump.
And I'm glad I knew you when you were a full-fledged felon. It makes me
Thank
happy.
you.
Well,
because I didn't want, you've probably met a lot of people after you got pardoned, right? Like we became friends before, like I became friends with a felon and we were good friends.
Right.
And I appreciate that,
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
you knew Justin before that, but.
Well, That was a narrow miss.
Very near miss. Fun fact, though, part 1 of this will come out the day before your 3-year anniversary.
Oh, really?
Getting pardoned, yes, sir. So everybody wish Gary happy anniversary.
3 years as a free man.
Yeah. What I learned throughout that process is the cliff notes of getting a presidential pardon.
Yeah.
Because like in my mind, until you went through that process and I heard it firsthand, I imagined in my head that there's just a laundry list of felons and they just go through, like some staffer goes through and just makes a bunch of check boxes.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean? And then they present it and then the president's just like, whatever. And then he just moves on, like check the box, okay, what's next? Mm-hmm. That's not how it is.
No. So the Office of the Pardon Attorney is a sealed building. You can't call them. You can't email them. You can't go into the building.
Typical government.
You can't talk to them at all.
It's just like the VA.
So when they send you an email,
like UPS.
Yeah, no shit, right? When they send you an email, you can reply to the email once.
Oh,
yeah. So unless they reply back to you,
you
can't. Yeah, you can't reply to them. So you can't even email them other than in the response to their email.
Wow.
So in order, and when I got my pardon, they were, and I don't know what it is now, I haven't checked, but at the time, they were 25,000 pardons behind.
Wow.
25,000 pardons behind. And
because I remember you were going down laundry lists of people that were involved in support of you.
Yes.
And trying to pull whatever strings they had. And I'm not talking about like myself or Scott. Like you had very, very, very reputable people high up in government places and state levels and all kinds of stuff.
Media.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I've been at this for 20 years.
No, I get that, but it was just.
But
did you ever think that you would be at that point?
No. And
when did the pardon thing even cross your mind that it was a possibility?
Well, one thing. So my lawyer is really cool. So I got turned on to my lawyer.
Was it the same one from?
No. This is a different lawyer.
Okay.
So my lawyer for the pardon that filed my pardon and helped me with a lot of this stuff was Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Adicott. He was a JAG lawyer for 23 years for Special Forces.
Okay.
And I got brought down. I knew who he was because he's always on the Joe Pags show. So Joe Pags, he's one of his guys that he has on as a guest all the time to talk about legal stuff.
Yeah.
So Joe told him about my story, and he was like, "Have him call me." So I called him, and he says, "Well, why wouldn't you want a pardon?" Because I wasn't going to apply for a pardon because one of the first things you have to do when you apply for a pardon is admit guilt.
Okay.
And I told him that. He goes, "Well, are you sorry you got convicted?" I said, "Well, yeah." And he's like, "Okay, well, there you go." So I was like, "Oh, yeah, I can do that."
Yeah.
So do you regret that they lied against you? I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So I regretted it.
Well, and like we've brought up before, technically you did it.
Right. I never denied it.
Right.
I never denied what I did, except what I say is that what I did
was justified.
Was not a crime.
Right. It should have been justified.
Right.
Yeah.
So during that time, and I didn't even try applying for a pardon because Bush put me in. Obama wasn't going to pardon me.
Yeah.
So once Trump came in, I was like, all right, we let them sit, let them get comfortable. We let them get comfortable. And so I believe it was February of 2018 that I actually applied for the pardon. And it took 2 years.
Yeah, but you jumped 25,000 people.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. So. And I learned to realize that it doesn't matter what laws you follow or whatever, it's who you know.
Yeah. So when you were going through that process, did you have high hopes? Did you think this is going to happen?
I knew I was on the short list.
Yeah.
I knew I was as close as I was ever going to be because, one of the people that I had on my side was Bernard Kerik.
Yeah.
Who was the commissioner of the NYPD during 9/11.
Right.
And he's very close with Trump.
Yeah.
And I also had Ted Cruz, the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, a bunch of congressmen.
Yeah.
Not to mention Sarah Carter, and who's on
Fox News.
Yeah, on Fox News with Sean Hannity. So I knew my chances were really good, but nothing's ever guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. And I knew I was on the short list, but I didn't have my hopes up.
Yeah.
Well, and I think when me and you had talked, you were thinking it would be like toward the end of his second.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then when I found out he lost the election, remember I was stressed out. I was like, so I went from 4 years of being able to have a chance to get a pardon to 72 days.
And not even that, all the work that you put in and the people and the conversations and the meetings and everything.
I was like, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Because I remember that. Because I think you came to the shop shortly after, and then it was a very somber day.
Yeah. I was like, I can't believe I just went to 72 days of being able to get a pardon.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, and I don't want to get too crazy about it, but you know, I'm a God person.
Yeah.
You know, and I prayed, man.
Yeah.
I prayed more than you can ever imagine. And it happened. And when I got the call.
So who called you?
So it was a White House cabinet member because the president was in the middle of signing pardons. So my friend Ed Hendy, I was on my way to Fort Worth with my mom, and I get a call as I'm going through Hillsborough, about 70 miles south of Fort Worth. And he says, hey, something came up in your background. We got to clear it up because we're trying to get you his pardon. I said, what happened? And he's like, well, I ain't got time to talk now, but be ready for a phone call because we got to get the White House on the phone, clear this up. We're trying to get you his pardon this weekend.
I fucking love this guy.
And I'm like, what the fuck? So for like 70 miles, I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? I was like,
you went through every bad thing you've ever done in your entire life.
Everything.
Mom, what did you say?
Yeah. Everything, man. I was like, what did I do? So when I get to Fort Worth, he FaceTimes me and he tells me to pull over because we got to talk to the White House. So I pull over and he's got this cabinet member on the on the phone. And he says, Gary, you're going to have to talk to this person because we're trying to clear this up. And I was like, okay, what did I do? And they're like, well, we're not sure what you did, but just wanted to congratulate you on a full and unconditional pardon that the president just signed for you about an hour ago.
So did the tears start before or after you hung up the phone?
The tears started. I said, are you kidding me? And they're like, no, this is true. And she goes, let me read you, because what they were waiting on, because he already knew.
Yeah.
And I had gotten it, but they had to wait for the press release to come out.
Okay.
So they were writing the press release. So then the cabinet member read me the press release, and I fell apart while I was reading, she was reading the press release. And my mom's, and I was bawling, dude. I was bawling. And my mom's like, what happened? What happened? I said, no, Mom, this is good. And the funny part is my mom had some dementia. So during the next few years while she was still alive,
she forgot you were
She forgot I was pardoned. And when I told really, you got pardoned? So she enjoyed it like 5 times.
So she remembered you were a felon.
Yeah,
but forgot that you got pardoned.
Yeah.
I love it.
Because it was a short-term memory that was. So she remembered for 20 years that I was a convict. But then after that, man, my phone started blowing up.
Oh, I imagine.
Yeah.
My phone started blowing up like crazy. I got calls from all kinds of Border Patrol agents. I got calls from old partners, obviously people I worked with. I got calls from agents that said, hey, I've been in about 15 years, and when I was in the academy, so-and-so was my instructor, who's one of my partners.
Yeah.
You know, I had agents call me that says, hey, you don't know me, but you know, I know your story and congratulations. And the ones that got me were these agents that called, says, you're the reason I joined the Border Patrol.
Wow.
You know, and there were about a half a dozen of those. Yeah. They're like, when I read your story, I was like, I got to go Border Patrol you know? And I got a call. I got a call from Kid Rock.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, I got a call from Kid Rock. So, because, you know, he follows politics.
Right.
You know, so apparently Sarah Carter was on a plane with him in Afghanistan one time and told him my story, I guess. And he knew my story. I'm figuring that's how he knew.
Yeah.
And he just called to congratulate me.
That's awesome.
You know, so I got about 2,500 phone calls and about 5,000 texts.
Holy shit.
Never knew I knew that many people, man. Never knew I knew that many people. A lot of people had a lot to do with it. Laura Ingram, Fox had a lot to do with it. Stinchfield. A lot of people just put their 2 cents in. So, and a lot of people that I know. So Trump was having these rallies.
Yeah.
Right. And a girl I grew up with, my friend's sister, she was working like all these merchandise carts, Trump merchandise carts at all the rallies and stuff, because that's what she does.
Yeah.
And she would always print my pardon and give it to anybody that would take it on the other side of the fence. So she gave it to to Corey Lewandowski. She gave it to Eric Trump. She gave it to Pam Bondi. She gave it to a bunch of Secret Service
before
guys.
you were pardoned.
Before I was pardoned,
Right,
yeah.
right. Okay.
When Trump went down to the border, I had on every time he went down to the border, I had agents, Border Patrol agents, printing out my pardon, giving it to Secret Service agents. They're like, can't really do it, but you know, when Donald Trump Jr. wrote his book, and he was on a book tour, I had a couple of guys that were in the Coast Guard with me that printed my pardon and gave it to him at the book signing.
Yeah.
So it just, my name kept coming across his desk, you know.
Right.
Laura Ingraham was another big one that, you know, talked to Donald Trump directly about me. So it's just this big network that made it happen.
Right. So after you got pardoned,
let me tell you, my truck ran better. The sky was bluer. The air was fresher.
I remember the first day you walked into the shop and you had a sidearm with you.
So that took a minute.
Legally.
Yeah.
So that took, because, you know, like the next week I was like, I'm going to go buy me a Glock.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't yet because it hadn't gone
It
through.
didn't catch up in the system.
It took, but when it did, I invested heavily in my Second Amendment. Right.
But I remember you were saying that you attended an event that Trump was there,
Mm-hmm.
and you weaseled your way up into the front.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll
So
let you tell the rest of that.
So I got invited to the White House because I got a part.
No, he's talking about a rally where you met him. Was
Yeah,
that's after the White House.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
that was after. So, so I was expecting to meet the president at the White House because I got invited to the White House, and I took Ed Hendy and Sarah Carter was there, and a couple of other people that helped me with this, and on January 6th.
Yeah. Out of all days.
Of all days.
So did you meet him?
No, because that happened. They whisked him to the situation, war room, whatever you call it. So I didn't get to meet him.
But I appreciate the fact that you didn't become a felon again that day.
Yes.
You were secured in the White House.
Yes. That's my alibi. I was in the White House. So, but the other thing that worried me was the J6 committee wanted to subpoena the records of the visitation log to the White House.
Yeah.
They never got it though.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But they were trying. But
Hey, you heard it here. He was there.
yep, I was there. I was nowhere near the Capitol. But so after that, a couple of months later, Donald Trump was doing a town hall in McAllen, Texas, with Sean Hannity.
Because it wasn't a rally.
Yeah.
No, it was a town hall. It was a private town hall. There were only like 150 people.
Yeah.
And there were sheriffs there from all over Texas. There were about 30 sheriffs. And I knew a good bunch of them. DPS all over the place. And it was in McAllen, Texas. And it was by invitation only. And Sarah Carter got me in.
Mm-hmm.
So I go there and, you know, they're talking and, you know, and whatnot. And at the very end, you know, he's over there signing hats, you know, doing this Donald Trump thing, whatever. I didn't want to be the guy yelling at the president, you know, because everybody's like, you know, it was McAllen, Texas. Everybody's like, Donald Trump. You know? But I knew I could talk louder than all of them. And that, you know.
So you said the same thing, just louder.
Yeah, but I said it in English. I actually said Mr. President. And he was right in front of me. I didn't want to be a guy yelling, but he was 8 feet in front of me, you know. And one thing that I ask a lot of people that know him and meet him, and I tell them to thank him for me.
Yeah.
Thank him for me because he changed my life. He gave me as much as he could of my life back.
Exactly.
Which is what bothers me, because all the shit he's going through right now, I know how he feels, because all this bullshit that they're throwing on him is he didn't do. Yeah. And I know what that's like to be in court, you know, being arraigned and being tried for something you didn't do. I know exactly how that feels, and it pisses me off that he pardoned me and gave me my life back, and now he's going through this, you know? Right. Which makes me realize, you know, look at, I mentioned him before, Bernard Kerik, right? Went to prison for 4 years for tax stuff. Mm-hmm. He, Michael Flynn, General Petraeus, even Donald, look what they did to Rudy Giuliani. They raided his house. He's America's mayor. He was the mayor of New York City during 9/11. Yeah. You know, I mean, he didn't go to prison, but they're still screwing him. Even Donald Trump, who was not only a billionaire, but he happened to be the president of the United States, and they're just messing with him left and right. Yeah. Makes me realize what freaking chance did I have as a freaking little border patrol agent?
Yeah.
You can't fight the federal government. If they want you, they got you.
Yeah.
Because if you fight, if you have the money to fight, they'll just fight you until you're broke.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah.
So back to Donald Trump's 8 feet away from you.
Oh yeah.
So I yelled at him. I was like, Mr. President, thank you for the pardon. And he looks at me, he's like, oh, you got a pardon. And I said, yes, sir, Christmas Eve, best Christmas present I ever got. And then he said, he goes, how many years ago was it? You know, and I said, it was like 20 years ago. And he goes, wow, he's got to love me. And I told him I was a border patrol agent. He goes, what's your name? I said, Gary Brugman. And he goes, oh, I know you. And then everybody was like, he knows you?
Yeah, it's like, wait.
DPS was giving me coins. The sheriff was like, didn't you say you know us? So that's the closest I've gotten to thank him. And you know, I've been on the campaign trail with Victor.
Yeah.
And he's been going to Mar-a-Lago, but he hasn't had the chance to see the president again. But I ended up on a security gig because I do private security now. I ended up doing a security gig that took me to Mar-a-Lago for 3 days.
Yeah.
Went to Mar-a-Lago for 3 days, and he was at NRA.
Oh.
But it's great because the people I talked to there, they're like, yeah, too bad he's not here because he's got a DJ and he's usually here slinging records. You know, like, that would be so great to see him in his house.
Yeah.
And Mar-a-Lago is such an impressive place, man, because it's like this big club.
Well, that's why it's worth $3 million.
18.
Yeah, 18.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah. but it's like this big restaurant, and like the first day I went there was kind of like raining, and when I walked through this big room, there were a bunch of tables on the inside, people were eating and stuff like that. And when I went back the next day for breakfast, it was a couch and there was like a Trump airplane model, you know, like, and I'm like, weren't there tables? He goes, no, this is the president's living room. I said, there were tables in here. I said, well, that's because it was raining. We brought everything in.
Wow.
But this is his living room. He hangs out here and, you know, watches TV. This is his living room.
Wow.
And everything is just his house. So you go up hallways and stuff, and there's parts that are locked. That's the bedrooms.
Yeah.
It's just such an impressive place.
That's cool.
So after your pardon, right, you invested heavily
And my Second Amendment.
Second Amendment. We've gone to SHOT Show several times together.
That was a big deal for me.
Going to SHOT Show?
Yeah, especially since you were there.
Well, we almost closed it down. It's open 24 hours. We almost closed it down.
You tried.
We tried. We did good.
We did good.
Yeah.
So up until you got your pardon, you couldn't get a passport, right? So you couldn't even go, you couldn't go to Puerto Rico. You couldn't leave.
Puerto Rico.
Let's see.
I couldn't go to Nicaragua.
But you couldn't leave the United States or their properties.
Right.
Right. So after you got your pardon, did you have a reason to get a passport? Other than you could?
Yeah, no. So I was I actually got my passport before I got the pardon.
Okay.
Yeah, because when I got convicted, they took it.
Yeah.
So I was driving trucks and I had to go to Canada.
Oh, okay.
And I avoided going to Canada for a long time because if you can't go to Canada, you get fired. And I was a Teamster at the time. So
well, as long as you don't have a DUI, you can get in. But if you have a DUI, you can't go to Canada.
Well, if you're a felon, you can't get in. We've had guys that had stuff on their records and they got turned away.
Oh shit. Okay.
So let me tell you that quick story. So I'm like, well, I'm getting fired. You know, I had got my passport already, but I was like, you know, I'm like, man, I'm not pardoned yet. I'm still a felon. So I'm going there and I land in Montreal and I go down a long hallway, do my declaration, go online, all these customs tables. I go up to the guy. I got all my bags with me. The guy goes, next. I go up, I give him my passport. He goes, nasty. I look up and he goes, motorman. So at the time, a long time ago, I was in this motorcycle club called the Wild Pigs, which eventually ended up being the Iron Pigs.
Okay.
This dude was a guy I knew in the Wild Pigs, and he didn't recognize me. I didn't recognize him, but he knew my name because he knew my story.
Okay.
So when he saw my name, I was like, oh. So he goes, what the hell are you doing here? And I told him, I said, yeah, I'm kind of worried because, you know, I got my, you know, conviction and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, no. Dude, He gave me a visa. Not only that I can go into Canada, I can move to Canada and work if I
want. Once again, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly, man. Told you, I know a lot of people, man. But yeah, so after I got my pardon, you know, I was still taking care of my mom.
Yeah.
And I was doing all right financially. I'm taking care of my mom. And I went down to Florida for a fundraiser for Chris Peranto.
And you happened to borrow my trailer.
I borrowed your trailer because I was taking my motorcycle.
And you got a bunch of fucking tickets.
No.
Not
yes. He did. He got tolls. Same
tolls,
fucking thing.
Dude, you know Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Well. You can't go anywhere without paying a toll.
That's true.
And there's some where you can't pay the toll. You just got to keep going.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. I didn't rack up tolls on you. I just didn't have a choice.
I had big feelings on that.
And it was a whole $12.
$12, sir.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And the reason why it doesn't matter is because Gary couldn't pay it.
That's right.
He was doing well. He was financially stable. He's taking care of his mom. He's a pardoned felon at this point.
Yep. About the same time I got that toll bill, what happened?
I ended up in the hospital on a ventilator for 17 days with COVID.
Yeah.
COVID hit me like a damn freight train. So I got sick. I passed out in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, and everything started going white while I was in the ambulance. And I'm looking at the lieutenant. I'm like, Lieutenant, I think I'm dying. Everything's turning white. So, and I still remember it's like an overexposed picture. Like when you take a picture, it's all bright.
That's what happens when you drown.
Yeah, well, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I had this. They were forcing oxygen into me. My oxygen was like 76 or 70.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I had 104.8 fever.
Yeah.
And I had to call Kevin and Patty to come take care of my mom, you know, and then I woke up 17 days later. So between the time that I got to the hospital and passed out and I got on the ventilator, apparently I was awake and made a whole bunch of phone calls and handled all my business. I don't remember any of it.
Yeah.
You know, I was in the middle of a $1.2 million real estate deal. I handed that off to somebody. I managed to call my mom's hospice manager and gave permission to somebody to handle her. You know, I mean, I did everything, and people said they called me, and I talked to you for like half hour. I don't remember none of it. The next thing I know, I woke up 17 days later, paralyzed, trached, in the hospital. It was great. I was in the hospital for a total of 62 days, and I couldn't move. I was shitting myself, pissing myself. Wearing diapers. Nurses were, once I got okay to get fed, because I had a trach, once I was okay to get fed, nurses had to come and feed me my breakfast and lunch, and I couldn't move my hands. And eventually when I started moving my hands, I couldn't hold up a fork because my hands would shake.
Right.
And actually they still shake. I realized that at the range, like if I draw and shoot real quick, I'm good. But if I'm going like trying to aim and like get a tight group, my hands would start shaking still. Fine motor skills, like using a mouse, sometimes I start shaking. But it was the scariest thing in my life, man. It was
because after you got out, they moved you to a like a rehab facility,
right, in Green.
And that's when we found out where you were, because we didn't even know the fuck you were.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that you had COVID. We knew that you were on a vent, but we didn't know what hospital you were at. There was no information.
Eventually, we got a hold of Patty.
Yeah,
and and
then we found out that you were in Green,
mm-hmm.
and
and you came to visit me.
We decided to show up one day.
You didn't.
I did not.
I don't even know if he wasn't. He was even in town.
Yeah.
You're on the beach.
Yeah.
So you know, that's why.
Hey, I take the beach. I take the beach. I'd rather be.
But I remember
we wouldn't let him die because he owed me this. I made
he owed fucking 12. It was the first thing that I said to him. I walk up, they wheel him out in a wheelchair, and there was no standing. There was no. I mean, it looked like. It literally looked like Gary looked like Justin. Is the easiest way to put it.
So
like, and I'm not saying it in a bad. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but you look at the stature of what Gary is right now, and you picture him minus like 50 pounds.
You couldn't have described that better, John.
But it was true.
Absolutely.
He looked like this just frail human being that like it was bad.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that I said to him. I'm like, motherfucker, you owe us $12. You can't die. And he's like, what?
We had everybody on the podcast. Like, he's not going to die because he owes me $12.
Dude, and you know what I remember most that day? I mean, I remember y'all being there, but I remember most is freaking Dave had combat flip-flops on.
He did.
And it said, not good for running, even worse for fighting.
Yep.
Dude, I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, that's what stuck with me from that day. When you guys were about to leave, I made the effort and stood up.
You did. Yep. And I half had to hold you.
Yeah.
And I was okay with it.
Yeah.
Because I understood the situation that you were in. And
dude, I was bad, man.
It was.
So the good thing is
and that was how many months after you got your pardon?
Wasn't that long?
5-6 months?
Yeah.
Maybe?
It was about 6.5, 7 months.
Yeah.
Like he gets a pardon.
He's like, woo, my life's just about to start. Just kidding.
Dude, I didn't fight for 20 years to get a pardon to die from no China virus.
Right.
All right. Hell no.
Yep.
And dude, since then, I've gotten TCO, Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, won't let me go to the police academy because that was my goal. I want to be a reserve cop. Not that I need to be a cop, but in a day that there's a shortage of cops and a shortage of good cops, it's what I do. Like you asked me what happened now when I got out of prison. I don't know how to do anything else. The past 15 years I did law enforcement.
Right.
In the Coast Guard and in the Border Patrol. I don't know how to do anything else. So I got my TCO won't let me go to the police academy because they said that the state of Texas says I was convicted, I was forgiven, pardoned for my crime.
Yeah, but you're still convicted.
But yeah, I'm not exonerated. Mm-hmm. So, and I can understand that. I don't agree with it. I'm still fighting it. And I will continue to fight it. It took me 20 years to...
Well, how many people that get pardons, like you're that only person that guideline applies to.
Right.
You're the only person.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not like if they change it to accommodate you, it's going to like open the floodgates for...
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, now we're going to have 10,000 applicants. Like,
no,
that's not how this works.
So right after COVID, like let me see, COVID, I got out of the hospital in October. And in June of last year, like 6 months after, because I still have breathing problems. You know that I'm still breathing heavy. My heart's still accelerated and stuff. I tried for DPS. Remember that?
Yeah.
I tried for DPS and I told DPS what they told me. And it's like, well, just so you know, TCO is run by DPS and everybody on the board is DPS.
Yeah.
So if DPS wants you, DPS will get you. So I know there's something that can be done.
Right. Yeah. It's just finding the right people.
Right. I failed the run. But in my defense, I've only failed it by 40 seconds.
Yeah.
So.
And that's not bad after almost dying from COVID.
Yeah.
And then I was huffing and puffing, but I was happy that I did a mile and a half.
Yeah.
So, but dude, since then I just got my security license. I'm a private investigator, and y'all know I'm always gone working jobs.
Yeah. Nonstop.
Always.
Then like it took you a couple months to like recover.
Oh man, yeah.
Like you were weak, and
I was.
It took you a couple months, but I feel like now you're not as. I mean, you're not as far from where you were.
No,
like you're
my breathing.
Yeah,
my breathing, my heart rate, and my sinuses are what kill me.
Yeah.
So, but the VA's working on me with that. They got me on a COVID convalescence program.
Yeah.
So I go and have my heart check, and I go and do these pulmonary tests and stuff. So I'm at about 60% of what my lungs used to be.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure this doesn't help.
At least you're not smoking.
But I'm not stopping.
Keep it out of your lungs.
Yeah. I quit smoking cigarettes. I haven't smoked cigarettes since before COVID.
Yeah.
Right.
So
you don't drink as much?
No, nowhere near as much.
So I did use you for a trip to Nicaragua to be my interpreter one time.
Yep.
And that was a fun trip.
Let me tell you something, man. I can't remember the last time I actually took a vacation.
Yeah.
That was freaking great.
It was fun.
That was great. From the minute we were in Houston Airport, where I saw you guys walking up, and we got, as soon as we landed in Nicaragua, triple.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the only way to do it.
One of the few times you can get it.
Yep.
We did drink a little that trip.
Yes, we did. We did. We met some great people.
Yeah.
Remember the judge? We met.
Yeah.
We met a judge
That was in the biker
in the
club.
biker club. Yep.
Yeah. And we were at the
In Nicaragua?
yeah,
Yeah.
in Esteli.
Yeah.
He was a judge in Esteli.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. And then the other one was like
At
a,
Aquarius.
so we ended up there were these guys drinking and raising and
They were
hooting and
having a good
hollering.
time, yeah.
And we were sitting and this guy's like, let's talk to him. So we went up.
Because normally there's nobody at that hotel.
Right.
They weren't staying there.
Oh, they were just hanging
were just-
out?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, that's right. They weren't. They were just just there drinking. And dude, it was great. The only issue I had was everything I said to Scott, I had to repeat in Spanish. It was like
It was funny. So Gary's translating, right? And one of them said something in English. So he looks at me and says it in Spanish.
How many drinks did you guys have at this point?
we were a couple of bottles deep.
Yeah, we'd been drinking. But they're speaking English to me and he's translating to Spanish to me. And I'm like, not necessary. But thank you.
No entiendo.
I remember that. I'd forgotten about that, man. And then just the whole factory down there was amazing. And you know, when I was actually on a security contract on Operation Lone Star before that, so I didn't know if I was going to make it.
Right.
But once I knew I could, I said, "Dude, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in." And that was the best vacation we had.
So you got to experience the entire process. You got to see everything.
Yes.
The veil was lifted, right? Before you got there, like you said, you've smoked cigars for a very long time. Did you think that was the process? That amount of work went into making that one cigar that you smoke?
I knew it wasn't easy, but no.
Not like that, though,
No.
right?
And the way Gonzalo explained it,
Yeah.
every single step of the way, the man's like the Britannica, is like
he
the Peter
really is.
Britannica of tobacco.
Yep.
You know, I had no idea that was the process. All the way to when we went to the fields, I didn't know that when you look at these huge tobacco fields and everything, I didn't know they're each planted
By hand.
By hand.
Yep.
Each plant is planted by hand. It's not a machine that goes by and drops seeds,
Yeah.
which is what I would
They
imagine.
could do it, they just wouldn't grow.
Right, exactly. Nope. They're in the little incubator, whatever it is, and then they grow the little
Greenhouse, yeah.
seedlings and they plant and we saw them doing that.
Yeah.
They were planting each individual. They dig a hole, they did it, they cover it.
Yeah.
I never knew that. It was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and then him with his Mexican stuff, and Gonzalo kicked up on the Mexican stuff with him too. But one of the best highlights for me down there was Gonzalo was talking shit to me.
Oh yeah.
The whole time. The whole time.
Well, because Gonzalo is originally from Cuba.
He's Cuban, yeah.
So it's just in his nature to talk shit.
Right.
Well,
right.
Gonzalo's got a great sense of humor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we were at the fields, and Gonzalo can't see out of one eye or some shit, and he tripped, and he was about to bust his ass face first,
Yeah.
and he landed in my arms.
Oh.
If I hadn't caught him, he'd have been screwed, man.
Oh.
He was about to hit hard.
Yeah.
And then I caught him, and then I put him back up, and I was like, "You're welcome, Papi." And he just looked at me, and he was like, he was like, "Gracias." It was great. I think I got a fuck you out of him one time.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Fuck you. He said in English, perfect English. But dude,
Great.
just and then the factory itself, you know, because and the drying barn, because I didn't know that it's dried, then stored, then fermented, then remoistened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just a whole process, and then just everything that you had going on there was just so impressive.
That's a cool
It's
thing.
really cool. And then, so after you guys left the factory, you guys spent a couple of days down in San Juan del Sur.
Well, first we went to Granada, which was fun.
Yeah, Granada was cool.
Yeah.
We fed the monkeys.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to Monkey Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we went to, was there another place we went? No, then we went to San Juan del Sur.
Yeah, San Juan.
Yeah. Yep. And then we spent a day or two at the beach.
And then we went up to see Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah.
I saw Jesus.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we drove because I wouldn't have made it up
No,
the
you
whole
went
hill.
to.
No.
Yeah. You wanted to.
I wanted to, but I
To walk the whole way?
Yeah.
No, you got to drive to that and just hike up the really
Yeah,
steep
that's what we
part.
did. And then
I barely made that.
And that's
was
because
enough.
of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if it was pre-COVID, for one, you wouldn't be there. But
right?
No, if it's pre-COVID, you would have been able to do the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was
it would have sucked. It was
horrible.
Yeah. John did it with the worst hangover I've ever seen.
That was the worst hangover of my life.
No shit.
And the only way, so this is how bad my hangover is, right? So if I'm at a beach, especially a tropical beach, right, and I wake up and I'm hungover, my number one go-to, right, cup of coffee, right in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm in the ocean. Just something about that and being in the surf. Mm-hmm. I get out. I'll be in there 15, 20 minutes. I get out of the water and I feel not like $1 million, but I don't feel like I felt when I woke up. Yeah. Right? You know, like my hangover's starting to. I'm on the mend at this.
The ocean's amazing.
It is. So I get in the ocean. I get out of the ocean 15, 20 minutes later, playing around the surf, the whole nine, and it's beautiful water down there. And I get out and I'm like, oh, this didn't help at all. Right. So I grab another cup of coffee. I drink a little, I slam a couple bottles of water. They had hammocks that were right on the beach. And right. So I'm like, you know what? I'm like, this is where my hangover goes away. I get in this hammock. I get all nice and cozy. I start rocking a little bit. I'm watching the ocean in front of me. And I'm like, I mean, it's beautiful there. It's in this cove and you have mountains on all sides and everything. And I'm like, this is where my hangover leaves me. And I'm in this hammock for like 30 minutes. And then I'm like, nope, this ain't doing it. And so literally I'm like, Scott, I need to go. I'm going to go take a nap. And I go upstairs.
This is at like 8:30 in the morning.
No, we're probably at like 10:30 maybe at this point. And I'm like, I have to take a nap. Like, I just can't. I don't know what the hell's going on right now. And we drank a shitload of rum the night before. And so I go upstairs and I black out everything I could. And I can barely, you try to take a nap when you're hungover and it's barely nap, Mm-hmm. And so I'm like struggling for like 45 minutes. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like this, I'm just dying. And Scott comes up and he kicks the door open and he's like, we're going to go see Jesus. And I was like, I think this might be the only thing that's going to get rid of my hangover. I'm like, let's go.
And until we got about 3/4 of the way up, he was hurting. So
and I'm in flip-flops.
Oh, man.
Right? It's not like I even have hiking shoes right now. No. I'm in flip-flops trying to go up to see the second largest Jesus in the world.
Mm-hmm. And it's like a 1.5 mile walk.
Straight the fuck up.
Yeah.
So we start walking, and I mean, it got to the point where like I'm drenched in sweat, and then all of a sudden I stop sweating, and all the sweat dries, and we're not even up to the steep part yet. Right. There's that little overlook when you're like 3/4 of the way up. That's probably right where you guys parked.
Yep.
And so we're sitting at this overlook, and like I have my leg up on like the edge, and it's beautiful looking over the other side, not over where the actual San Juan del Sur is, the backside of that. And I'm looking over at this, and I'm like I have the mouth sweats and everything, like my hangover's full bore at this point. And this Nicaraguan girl comes up, and she stops where we were, and she looks over, and then she just keeps going. Right. And so we were already sitting there for like 15 minutes. So we're like, fuck it. We're like, we got to get to the top of this. And so she's just powering right up to the top, and we're just sucking ass
she walked by us, not even the slightest bit of out of breath.
Oh yeah. Not breathing heavy, no sweat, no nothing.
This was her.
No. And I'll get to why it was like that. Right. So she's gone. Like, all the way, we don't even know, like she might have been at the top in 2 minutes. Who fucking knows? But we're fighting to get up that remaining little section of it that's steep as shit. And there's stairs that you can walk up. And I think the stairs are worse than walking up the road that's next to it that I don't know how they paved it because it's that steep. So we get all the way to the top, right? And we're like, oh, we're here. It's a beautiful view. You can see everything. And this Nicaraguan girl's sitting right on the edge. And she walked up there to eat her lunch.
Yeah.
Right. So we're up there, we're taking pictures and we're doing all this
pissed
stuff.
Me off,
and I had big feelings. I was mad. You know what I mean? Like, fuck this. Like, who are you?
No shit. And she wasn't like buff or like.
No, she was just like an average person. Yeah. Like that was it. There's, and she got done eating and packed up her shit and just walked right back down. I'm like, fuck you.
No shit.
But
those were my feelings exactly.
Right. So we take pictures. We go inside. We take a picture on the edge. And we do all that kind of stuff. And we walk back down. And about 3/4 of the way back down, I'm like, I have zero hangover. Like I feel like $1 million right now. And then we went out drinking again. But yeah, the only thing that got rid of my hangover that day was Jesus.
Yeah. We got plenty drunk there. Yeah. Especially in Grenada. We were bar hopping.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were bar hopping. We couldn't find bourbon anywhere.
Oh, it's so hard. I found one place in Leon that has Jameson. Yep.
We couldn't find it. We're like drinking Buchanan and stuff.
Yeah, like whiskey is all Scotch to them.
Oh, do you have whiskey? Jack Daniels?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Buchanan,
Yeah.
Johnny Walker.
Yep.
Johnny Walker's their whiskey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I found one place that had Jameson. They had one bottle. I drank the whole fucking thing that night.
No shit.
Oh, fuck yeah.
We would have too.
I was like,
Damn right we would.
This is mine.
We said, hey, if we bring a bottle, we pay you to drink it here?
Yeah, I would have. We got really shit faced in the pool that one night. Yeah.
We sang every Guns N' Roses song. That was pretty awesome.
That's where I learned a lot about your rock history that night. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And then we went to that one bar that was steep where Michelle was sitting on the balcony. That was a good place too.
So what do you have planned now? So we've kind of got the cliff notes of your life story, through all the way through being a felon to be getting a presidential pardon, getting a lot of your rights restored. That takes a little bit of time after that. To your private security. What else do you have on the horizon? What are some of the goals that you want to accomplish now that you kind of have a second chance at everything?
Right now, what I'm really looking for is two things. I'm looking for that financial stability.
Yeah.
So I ain't got to worry about that and have peace of mind.
Right.
John, I've done everything I've ever wanted to do in life.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a little bit. Like I always wanted to be a law enforcement officer, want to be a federal agent, want to be a cop.
You did it.
I did it, but I didn't get to retire.
Right.
Which was, I had my life set out for me at 22. I was going to join the military, do 4 years. I did almost 9.
Yeah.
And then when I got out, went right into the Border Patrol. I said, dude, I'll be retired. I could retire at age 51.
Yeah.
I could have retired. I would have been eligible for retirement on February 22nd of 2018 at age 51 with 29 years of federal service.
Nice.
Had I stayed in, just my past birthday, September 30th, I would have been mandatory retired. I'd have been like, you gotta fucking go.
Get out.
Yeah. and I got nothing. So I'm looking to just find that financial stability, whatever it is. And find peace of mind, dude, because I'm tired. And
so John and I, this last weekend, we met up with our old platoon sergeant. And when we got back here, he texted us and he said, "So proud of you guys. Remember to pause every once in a while and take in the life that you've built."
Amen.
And you've built a good life.
I have.
You have led
You built a hell of a life.
Yeah.
I have. I've done so. I got a girl in Houston,
Mm-hmm.
and I keep telling her, I'm like, I just want to make you happy.
Yeah.
Because I've done everything I want to do.
Right.
What makes me happy now is watching you be happy.
Yeah.
So, and that's basically what I want to do. I just want to live life and enjoy. So I told you that Nicaragua thing was the first vacation I had taken in a long time.
Well, it won't be your last one there because you were a hell of a good interpreter.
Dude, I want to go back.
Yeah.
I want to go back. But I guess financial stability, peace of mind, and I just want to travel and do things.
Has anybody told you that you should write a book about everything that's happening in your life?
I'm in the process. I've been working on it for 16 years.
Yeah.
Well, every time he thinks he's done, a new chapter's written.
I know. He's like, well, shit, I can't even start because it's not finished.
I can't leave this out.
You know what my problem is I can tell the story. And I don't know if you noticed while I was telling the story, sometimes I get a little emotional.
Yeah, because you're reliving the worst parts.
When I'm writing, it's even worse.
Yeah.
And I know I got to fight. I know I got to charge through it. And everybody's like, get a ghostwriter. I don't want a ghostwriter. I want to write it myself.
Yeah.
I've got some stuff written, but it's just a matter of finishing it. I get angry. I get really angry, and I get into my own head because I start remember things in detail.
So you start writing a chapter, and then it's like it devolves into how you're going to kill this motherfucker.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, I can't put that in here.
I had back in
this just turned into a
2009.
manifesto. Fuck.
Exactly. Back in 2009, I had almost 100 pages written, and I started talking about some things that happened to me in prison, and I'm like, and this motherfucker, and then I deleted everything.
It might have been a good thing.
Yeah, I deleted it. So now I've started again, and I've got quite a bit done, but I just need to finish writing and then put it all together.
Yeah.
So
nice. And then you're so you mentioned to us that you are somebody who wants to do a biography movie.
Yes. So I'm working with Chris Martini, who owns Triple Martini Productions. And I'm sorry, microphone's over here. Who owns Triple Martini Productions. And his brother is Max Martini.
Right.
And I've known Chris for quite a few years now. I met him in 2020, January 2020. I was going up to New York to do the Battle Line podcast, Chris Pronto's Battle Line podcast. And I talked to him and we met up there and we had lunch together in a Cuban restaurant. Great place. And he was doing the thing where he was going to do like a series where I had a bunch of small and he wanted to make mine like an episode.
Right.
But the more he got to know me and we got to know each other, he decided that he wants to make a full documentary about me.
Nice.
So we're gonna do. He's gonna do a crowdfunding thing. See if we can raise some funds.
Yeah. So in a couple months,
in a couple of months, we're gonna have this crowdfunding thing going on, and it's gonna be all on donations because we got to raise the money to make the movie. It's not cheap to make a movie.
Yeah.
And as he put it, he's
nobody in Hollywood's gonna fund.
Probably not. But I've got a couple of people because you know the thing with Hollywood's kind of changing now.
Yeah,
they have to.
Yeah, they have to. So I've actually got a couple of other pitches from other production studios, but I'm with Chris, so we're working on that. But yeah, so eventually it's going to come out that I'm going to be asking for some donations to see if anybody wants to help me make this movie.
Once all that comes to fruition, we'll definitely have you back on and share a little bit more of your story and do our best to help progress everything.
I know you will. I appreciate it, man. And like I said, the past 4 years that you guys been here, I hang out here a lot. And before I used to hang out here a lot more, but now I'm working a lot more. Yeah. But when I was taking care of my mom, you were right down the road. So I was, always.
He hangs out so much here that when he's not here, when he's away working, he ships stuff here for us to hold for him.
I do. Because I know it'll be secure.
Yeah, it's not going to get stolen off here.
Safest place in San Antonio right now. Yeah, but I ship stuff here all the time because I'm not home.
Yeah. Yep. So where can everybody find you?
So basically it's just my name. I'm on Facebook at Gary Brugman, Instagram at Gary.Brugman. I'm on X at the letter X Border Cop. So it's X Border Cop.
I see what you did there.
I see that.
I like it.
And LinkedIn and I'm on everything under my name. It's pretty easy. And I also have a website, GaryBrugman.com.
Okay.
So, and I had the podcast.
Yeah.
I had the podcast. So that's part that I left out because I started the podcast to get the president's attention.
Yep.
For my pardon. And after a few episodes, I brought in my buddy TJ, who's a retired firefighter from New York. And it was my show, but he was the star. Yeah. Big Daddy Roughneck, he was the star. And unfortunately, this past May, he died of cancer. Oh. And I've been having trouble bringing the podcast back because who the hell wants to listen to me talk? He was the star.
All of our listeners just did.
Yeah,
so.
they did.
But you guys are here, But yeah, so I really got to do a memorial episode for him and get the podcast going again because everybody still keeps on asking, yo, what's up? Yeah. So the Gary Brugman podcast will be coming back probably early next year.
Nice. Awesome. Well, while we still have a little bit of drinks in our glasses, I'm going to raise my glass and toast to the amazing story of Gary Brugman.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
And then we'll leave
to pardons.
Yeah, to pardons.
Yes.
And I'm going to leave everything else on the table for the next time we have you back on. We can go into more detail, or if any of the listeners have any questions or anything like that, leave them down here. And like I said, when we have Gary back on, we'll get to whatever questions you have, whether it's about the parting process or if he did it or not. We can bring gloves on if it doesn't fit. Like
Mikey says, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yep.
I did it. I never denied it.
But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with everybody. And going into detail pretty much from start to finish on how everything happened. I've heard it in the past, but not in as much detail and not in the same timeline.
Right.
So being able to lay it all out and put it all together, it really makes everything make a little bit more sense. So I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you having me, man. I know you got a lot of guests here, and for you to make time for me, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. then
glad you made time for us to come in.
Seriously, you're so busy lately, man.
I know.
But yeah, stay tuned for next week. We'll have some more fun stuff coming out for you. Other than that, go get some Warfighter cigars.
Yeah.
Smoke.
Smoke on.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next time.
All right.